What's going on, boys? Chi-Town, aka Kennedy, back here again. Today, we're just going to be going through some of the past rewards that we've won. Mostly, we're just going to take a closer look at the podiums and maybe highlight some other guys that we won along the way that are meaningful. But mostly, I just want to talk about some of the podium results that we've had in the history of the club. Now, I think we've been playing for roughly like 200 game weeks now. So yeah, we started on 353. It reset at 500. So that's about 150. Yeah, so about 190, 200 game weeks now. So a lot of, I mean, mostly you see, I only kept 8 rewards. Um, I just kind of believe if they're not part of the immediate plan that I have, then they just kind of go out the door. Which next year we might change out a little bit with just how in season works. One of the cats fixing to jump up on the desk here. But yeah, so we'll just kind of dive head first into this. So actually, we won't be looking at ponies. We'll just be looking at top five finishes. Talk about lineup construction. So first one we have a couple weeks ago, game week 41. So here we went with, you can see Arsenal. Come on, buddy. Arsenal at Brighton. Didn't end up keeping the clean sheet. Joao Pedro got that pen after Saliba tried to MMA headbutt him in the box. But Foden bagging a 93 and Burmo. Um, I only have Burmo from Brentford, so that part stinks. Don't have like a Damsgaard. Don't have a Wissa, so don't have any of those guys. Unfortunately, couldn't pull it in the in season either. But you got Bruno G here on an 82 as well. So I want to say this was maybe my second priority lineup. So let's see the other Prem Classic lineup. Yeah, so this was the priority lineup. I really thought Liverpool would keep a clean sheet against United, which they obviously didn't. Um, Cole Palmer giving up the air, let it go probably helps me with this lineup. But again, just I don't want to say leftovers because they're really good leftovers, but just in terms of matchups, kind of prioritize this one first. And yeah, luckily Bruno got the decisive. Foden pretty much pulled out a 95er, and Burmo pulls out the 100. Um, Nothing else really. This Warbond kind of stinks. I'm not too happy about that one, so we're not even going to look at that lineup. But then we have Lo Celso in game week 35. So we'll go to game week 35 here. Just a La Liga lineup. So again, I'm pretty sure this one was ironically a second lineup. So let's pull up the other La Liga Classic just so we can kind of look at it. Yeah, so we pretty much went Madrid at Rayo. We went the full Madrid stack with Lo Celso as the extra, just because I'm pretty sure Rodrigo wasn't nailed, but in hindsight, Madrid gives up three, so that kind of opens it up in terms of the leaderboards with La Liga and Barca lost. So kind of stumble into a fourth place finish here with 400. I regret the captaincy choice, but my thinking was if they kept the clean sheet, Agward had been scoring pretty well. So I wasn't really anticipating only 6 AA outside of the 10 for the clean sheet. So that part kind of stinks. Um, I wasn't positive Pedri would play. I wasn't positive Rodrigo would play, and Sergio Gomez just isn't captaincy material. So again, hindsight's 2020, but probably want to give the armband to Rodrigo here, just in the sense that if if he plays, he's probably gonna nick a decisive, and Agward just doesn't really bring in those peak scores. So can't really complain with a fourth place finish. Plus, I think I sold the Celso for roughly like 180 bucks, so that's pretty solid. Nice finish here with Solanke, tier two and all star rare. Um, let's see, Davy Rowe, nice little finish here in Challenger Classic. Okay, so let's go over the Musiala one. That was game week 29. Nice little U23 win there. So here we got Lamens, who wasn't able to keep the clean sheet at home against Dender. But I ended up going with, so let's see. Oh, I want to see that actually, that Challenger Classic lineup. Because I'm wondering where Tillman falls in here. Because obviously you'd think maybe Tillman was out. Let's see. Do I have another U23 or let's see this other Challenger Classic lineup? Yeah, so you can see here the Tillman. Okay, so Tillman was on the bench. So I'm just very risk averse. So I know Tillman has kind of been rotated a little bit, not a lot, but even if I see him at like 70%, I might just put him in a non priority lineup. So I kind of luck out that he's on the bench here and he doesn't get decisive off the bench. So we went with the two guys that we knew were nailed. I think De Jong was hurt or out for this game for sure. So Pepe gets the hat trick in the off start. Flamingo with a 92.3. That was pretty big. Joao Neves ends up bagging the goal to pretty much score 100. And then Flo Vert's doing Flo Vert's things, scoring 140 with the cap with the armband on him. So that's a pretty solid one. Got Musiala in. I had already bought a Musiala, or I already have one, so I just ended up moving this one on. But a really solid win nonetheless. Wish I would have kept Harry Wilson, especially winning him as a tier four. I think I only got like $10 for him, but that's one of those he definitely can put in a shift for the in season gallery. So one I wish I would have kept. Then we have a double top five here. So we'll go to game week 21 where we won Angles and Franco Israel. So we got third in Chow class or U23 Classic rather. So again we have Lamens and Flamingo. Lamens actually keeping a clean sheet for once. PSV hitting the 6-0 against Wool. So there you have Flamingo and Tillman. Tillman scoring 100 with the armband on him too is pretty big. Not necessarily a peak from Kokchu, but I mean you have an 81, 100 with the armband, and 100 from Bakwa here, which was huge. So you can stomach these 60s if you're getting peaks everywhere else, which I did. Um, Ended up winning by looks like 10 or oh I'm sorry, third. Missed first by 10 or 11 points. So again, I mean maybe if we're talking a decisive here, nothing there. If we're talking maybe a decisive here, yeah, no BCM or BCC, but um, yeah, it just stinks that you're so close. But this was a crazy game week, especially for challengers. So we won Israel here. I remember Costa won on Monday. I thought the only way I could even get to like star territory was if, um, yeah, it's AVS ended up like with a ton of shots on target and they just didn't. But this I'm pretty sure is the first round of MLS playoffs, and I don't. Again, with how much uncertainty there is at PSV forward, I'm pretty sure I just stuck Boscagli in here. In hindsight, maybe you put Tillman back here, although I mean Puig scored 100 anyway, so it really wouldn't have mattered. Um, but yeah, I mean there's not a lot more you can do. I mean you're 14 points off winning. You score 523. That's just what happens here. I mean we'll take a look at the PSV game week, but clean sheet from Costa, basically an 88 from Boscagli, 100 from Puig, 83 from Bouanga, and pretty much 100 from Messi with the armband. And there's just not really a lot you can do there. Um, yeah, so 100 from Saibari, 100 from Tillman, 85 from Pepe, 75 from Benitez. I mean, this is one of those weeks where if you don't have PSV stacks, then you're really just on the outside looking in, which stinks. But every region, every region has smashers like that. So we'll look at game week 17 here. International nights, we're going KDB. Um, International nights are so weird. It's just kind of like to me, it's always just play the smashers from each team. Don't necessarily worry about correlation because in so many instances there's benchings, there's DNPs, there are guys that come off at halftime. So to me, it's always just play the best five that you think will score the best. So we got Rye here keeping the clean sheet, Mittelstadt with the assist at the 77.7, Trent with a big goal with the armband on hitting 87, then Modric putting in a shift 68 AA and only 14 attacking AA too. 6 interceptions, that's pretty big. And with the triple triple. At home against Scotland, and then you have Big Vic, the Night King with the 96.3. Not the last time we'll see Gyökeres on this. So really cool to win KDB there. Sold him because he's just been so in and out of that City lineup. Um, and at the time I had a Foden, So I just figured KDB is probably the one you want to sell out of those two. All right, we're back. Got the cats fighting here. Louis Diaz, tier two prem. That's a nice little hit. Let's go in a little bit further. As a nice little hit too. One I wish I would have kept, but at the time I sold him for roughly like $120, and now he's only about 70. So again, it's one of those he'd be nice to have, but he didn't necessarily fit the strategy at the time. So I kind of put the money to decent use at least. Same with Denali. Nice little sale there. Okay, so Harry Kane and Trubin in basically back-to-back game weeks. Let's look at that. So we have the Harry Kane lineup here. So I have a full Bayern stack, almost a full Leverkusen stack. Um, and oddly enough, it looks like I went away from those for this game week. So let's just pull up the other Bundesliga D1 Classic team. And for the sake of easy viewing, we'll hide these. Okay, so Bayern won 2-0 at home to Freiburg. This actually looks like yeah, this is definitely the priority lineup here. On paper, I mean, you think Neuer's going to keep the clean sheet. You always fancy Musiala to be in amongst it in terms of scoring. Kane does bag a goal, but only ends up on a 68. And then I think Elise came off, yeah, he came off early. It's 59 minutes. So kind of tough there, but at the same time, again, Bayern blanks. So it kind of makes sense to just go with an anti-Bayern lineup here. You figured, or at least I thought, that this Leverkusen game, Leipzig would be, or Leverkusen game with Leipzig rather, would be fairly high scoring. So I mean, you always fancy Verts to be in amongst it. The Grimaldo goal probably is a little bit lucky, but I mean, 40 AA in a game like this, 7 attempted assists, 17 penalty entries. Like, it's just a game where it's going to be so back and forth, and that kind of plays towards Grimaldo. Boys are going nuts. Kramaric steals a goal. I mean, they got pumped by Frankfurt, probably one of his only decisives of the season, so I kind of got lucky there. Gross got a yellow card late in the game. I was worried that that would really come back and bite me, but I won by 25 points. And then um, again, I use Neuer here. I never really use Hradetsky in a priority lineup. In fact, I ended up selling him just because of the rotation now. But um, Ronau ends up being probably one of the best shot stoppers in Bundesliga. So I only sold him because he's hurt, or else he'd still be in the gallery. But um, he was literally here for like 3 weeks, and he won me a cane. So shout out to him. And then right here. So here's how that Bayern lineup looked like that game week. Yeah, Oop only scores 41, Kimmich only scores 46. So um, in game weeks where some of these big teams end up falling apart, I mean, you see how if you can just kind of avoid that, then you're really in the clear. So another huge score here, 518. Um, I usually when PSV is away, and now that I get it's a lot easier to do because I have Costa in addition to Benitez, but sometimes I will just not put Benitez in, just in the case that they give up the odd goal. Um, so that ends up working out in my favor big time here. Um, I get, again, it's a bit of an advantage that I have a keeper who's on a top team. They're playing one of the worst teams in the league in Rio Ave, but if you're afforded that luxury, I mean, it makes sense to me, especially with an away game. Um, just PSV are so notorious for giving up a random goal or meaningless goal here and there. Flamingo with the 100, yeah, definitely smash. I mean, 115. So that's pretty big. Veerman here with the double assist to hit a 96. Puig with the armband did a 95. And then Gyökeres hitting the 89. So let's see where I ended up using Tillman. Did I use Tillman? Nope, didn't use him there. Yeah, so I ended up using Tillman here, who ended up scoring an 89. Man, this must have been a fairly high scoring U23 week, too. Um, yeah, I tend to use Tillman in U23, especially like when Veerman's playing. And I have Puig, who's a bit more of a sure thing than Tillman. Granted, he can peak, but if he doesn't peak, he's in usually in like that 50 to 55 range. Whereas Puig, I mean, there's just no world in which you're going to put him in over Tillman. Plus, I can use Tillman in the U23. So that's just kind of how I think about it, especially when MLS is in Challenger and you could kind of use those cards together. Um, just because I can use him here, then I'll put Veerman here and I'll put Puig here. If that makes sense. Okay, one of the Lokis behind me here having fun. Um, and part of the reason I'm so I win that by 30 basically. Um, you you have Flamingo outscoring Muscagli by 38. So again, I don't think I had Buscaglia at this point in time either. So kind of luck into a little bit of a differential there. I mean, you miss out on Benitez not keeping the clean sheet, and then you hit on Flamingo instead of Buscaglia. So I will admit sometimes it's better to be lucky than good because if I had Buscaglia, he's probably going in there, and Flamingo's probably going in here for one of Araujo or probably Mendy because keep Araujo and the goalie together. We'll keep moving on here. Bone was a nice little tier two hit. Anybody else? Okay, so we got Lawal in game week 497. So we'll find that. This was like right at the beginning of the European season. Plus, the U23 World Cup was going on, so we got Schulte there, part of the Columbus stack. So most of these guys aren't guys that I'll just like go out and buy for a specific game week. They're guys that really kind of fit into a long term strategy. Jiku is one of the more slept on challenger defenders. They got Evander here. He ended up nicking a late decisive. I want to say like past 80th minute. Granted, they won 4-0, but he really wasn't like super involved for being their talisman. So I actually thought he'd be closer to 100 just because Colorado's so bad defensively. And then you got Bogusz and Bwanga here. I don't know if this was like actually a 4-6 game or if there were some penalties in there. Yeah, no, there's definitely penalties. So it's maybe this had to have been a Leagues Cup game. Um, but anyways, I'm pretty sure they combined together for this goal and assist, so that's pretty cool. We end up being 3.83 points off a podium. I think at the time I had like a percent on Evander, 1% on Jiku, 3% on LAFC, and 4% on Schulte. So not really a ton more you can do there, other than boost Evander and Jiku. But I'm not in the business of spending a fair bit of money on cards that I'll never use. Angus Gunn's actually a really solid tier three hit for the Euro comp because he started for Scotland. Jonathan Klaus is a decent little hit, but I just never end up. It never really ended up matching up time wise for me to use him. So I'll go to 486 here for Zolis. So we actually had a double podium here. So we won Zolis and Messi. So I'll talk through the Messi one first. This was an MLS double game week, which there were a lot this summer just because the game weeks were messed up. So we got Schulte, Morris, and Cuccio all in a 4% Columbus stack. All these scores are from the Revs game. So they smashed the Revs at home and then they went to play at Inter Miami. So I was kind of nervous that like Morris would get rested, Cuccio would get rested, or that Chiberko would get the Miami game instead of the Revs game. But I just kind of sent it. If Chiberko gets a home game against the Revs, he's probably one of the best defenders for that specific game week. And I don't think Wagner had great matchups. Now, granted, Hollingshead ended up pulling in the 100 anyways, but regardless, Schulte keeps a clean sheet. Chiberko hits the massive 50 AA with really no attacking AA either. Yeah, he ends up triple double with 3 tackles. Aiden Morris in his final week, I think, for the Crew ends up pulling in the 100 with the assist. 12% on him, 12% on Schulte, an extra 10% on Cuccio. Like those are pretty big for classic, and those can. Granted, it did a little bit. You probably figure most people. The average really for like a solid classic card is probably like 7-8%. So if you factor Morris is 7 and Schulte is 7, that's 10 points lost right there. Like that's moving me down a second. So Mihailovic hitting the hat trick at St. Louis was pretty big. And then Cuccio with the armband hitting a 98. So that was super cool. Plus, I'm a Columbus supporter, so that one felt really solid. The Cap 220, missed these comps. Um, Granted, getting third only gets you a tier three, but it's cool anyways. Just being able to hit a podium. So you got Trubin hitting nice little bit of AA against Ukraine. Hollingshead with the armband, pulling in the 100 with three decisive, so a goal, assist, and a last man tackle. You got Morera hitting the 78 and a half again, home game against New England. That was pretty big. And then Zawadzki hitting the 78.3. And then Opoku, who we actually won a couple weeks earlier, right here as a tier four. We just kept him for one reason or another. Ends up hitting the goal. And his L15 was like the only reason that we could put all these guys together. So that's pretty cool being able to do something like that. Okay, so that's why I played Chaberko over Wagner. Granted, Wagner still ended up coming through, but I mean at Cincy, you don't really fancy him to do super well. Plus, it just kind of makes sense to keep the Columbus contingency together and maybe add one piece, which was Mihailovic. So, and I do think, I mean, Zawadzki just didn't really peak. So my reasoning for going Mihailovic over Zawadzki was really in a double game week, especially. You need those peaks, and just in my opinion, like Mihailovic had that more 100 capable ability as opposed to Zawadzki, who doesn't really move forward a ton. I mean, as you can see, one attacking AA versus 29. So, I mean, Mihailovic, set piece taker, pen taker. Zawadzki does nothing. He's a holding midfielder. Now, granted, he can put up scores like this, but especially in a double game week, like, yes, it makes sense to put out a full stack in a smasher game week, but you don't want to put out a full stack, in my opinion, if you're sacrificing like a Mihailovic in a great matchup to play as a Wadsky just for the sake of playing the stack. I mean, this, like I said, he's a pen taker, set piece taker, talisman for the team. So to me, it's just kind of like weighing those two things. There's not like one overarching right answer when it comes to lineup construction, but like that's at least just my opinion. CCV was a decent little tier three, but I just don't play. I don't play contender. Let's see who else. I think Bobby Thomas stayed for maybe a little bit. Louis Palma was a decent sale at the time, so we got game week 469 with Neuer. Um, what do we got here? So we have a Champ Classic lineup. Again, tough matchup with Barca, but what other Champ lineups did we have? So here, let's go to our other Champ Classic. Nice little All Star lineup too. Too bad Truman didn't keep the clean sheet. So other champ lineup was we had VV. So Liverpool at Fulham. VVD doesn't keep the clean sheet. Odegaard nicks a goal. I don't think I had. So Delict must have been a DNP. That stinks. I don't think I had Musiala at the time, or else he probably slots in for Delict. But at the time, I didn't have full Bayern stack, so that's probably why I went with this team. Arsenal at Wolves. You fancy them to keep a clean sheet, and you always fancy Saka to be in amongst it in terms of goal involvements. Trent scored off a free kick and did like nothing all game and got hooked a little bit early. So huge that he gets the free kick there. Plus, they don't keep the clean sheet, so Allison and VVD are kind of mudded in that sense. And then I think Bellingham scored like a later goal. Um, that was huge. And then Vinny hitting two decisives. I mean, these guys just like big game players. So plus I have the Madrid stack, so I feel like that's why I went with them in the priority lineup. You just Bellingham is so hot, and I just tend to kind of go a little bit more based off form. Um, Man, that is such a tough call though, deciding between Odegaard at Wolves and Bellingham at home against Barca. I would say Bellingham's just a little bit more consistent in his goal involvements, whereas Odegaard's more feast or famine. Um, yeah, plus the away from home versus getting a home game. Yeah, tough call there. That really is a tough call. But those are the fine margins. There's the big Apoku that we won. Jose Sal was a nice little hit. Anybody else down here? We might have like one or two more. So game week 452, we got Providel. Let's go there. So All Star Rare. This is European midweek. So we had Arsenal at Porto. which you always knew. I want to say that was around a 16 game. Um, I mean, away European fixtures are always so tough. I don't care that it's League of Portugal versus a team competing for the Prem. It's just a totally different environment. So that's why I just kind of kept all them together, thinking if they pull a rabbit out of the hat and really smash, then we'll be kicking ourselves. But at least we're all together then. You know what I mean? Um, but so let's go here. So we got Trubin keeping the clean sheet at Toulouse, keeping him and Otamendi together, and then Neves also part of that stack. Um, at the end of the day, you figure if they keep the clean sheet, then all three of these guys will have had a lot to do. I mean, Neves a holding midfielder, Otamendi a defender, and Trubin the goalkeeper. So you figure if they're keeping a clean sheet, I mean they're away to a top five league side. So you figure again if they keep the clean sheet, they were probably pulling in a lot of AA in the meantime, which they did. I mean, Joao Neves hits 45, Otamendi hits 50, and Trubin hits 14. So I was right in that regard. Got kind of lucky with a Wagner assist. They were away to, I want to say that's I don't really remember. It might be a Colombian side. But away in CONCACAF is especially hard because that's CONCACAF Champions League or Champions Cup. The travel is just nuts going from Philly, which is a Northeast team, all the way down south. That's pretty tough. And then I was really worried that Gyökeres wouldn't play, but he ends up playing a full 90, bagging a goal, but he does miss a pen. So you figure add 10 onto the score plus bonus, so roughly like closer to 11. I mean, you're looking at first place, which stinks, but is what it is. He's been a great servant to the club, so I'm not really going to fault him too bad. Um, at the time, Kamungo was a decent little hit. He unfortunately didn't really end up being much. That actually might be it. We might have maybe one more. Um, let's take a look. Yeah, looks. Oh no, I'm sorry. The first big win of the gallery. So we'll take a closer look at that one. Game week 412. You got to go way 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 beforehand. Um, Cat 270. I used to love Cat 270 just because you chase super rares. Say what you want about how good or bad the super rare reward pool is. But this is also a time where I had a lot lower value gallery. Prices were a lot different, so I couldn't chase like the Musialas of the world or players like that. I could just kind of buy the lower end pieces of the Arsenal stack and maybe make a few speculation plays. But wow, yeah, a lot of these players are tripped on memory lane. I wish I would have kept the Rice one of 100. I ended up selling him just to fund some other stuff, but some fun names in there. Regardless, another European midweek. So we have Martinez, Walker Peters, Bogusz Boang, and Pedro. It was also an MLS midweek, or they were making up a game here, LAFC in Minnesota. So keep those two guys together. It doesn't look like I had too much else really going on. So it looked like they were probably my only options. I mean, could have played Hollingshead maybe instead of Walker Peters, but Walker Peters in the championship, that is, was like a 60 or 70 machine. So I just kind of valued the consistency a little bit more than Hollingshead's peak ability, I guess, which really isn't too high. Um, let's see who I was. Yeah, Martinez was the easy call. I was a little bit worried that he wouldn't start, but usually he starts in Europe, so he gets an out over Schulte. He gets an out over the wall. Yeah, nobody else really here that I'd play. Maybe Rice, but I wasn't totally convinced that he would play. Plus, I would just rather have Bogusz at home. You can make the argument maybe Rice over Joao Pedro, but again, I really wasn't sure that Rice would play. And Pedro was pretty nailed. So Martinez keeps a clean sheet. Walker Peters hits, what is that, roughly 37 AA? Yeah, 37. Bogusz hits an assist. One of them was to Bowanga. Bowanga gets the hat trick. 109.6 to be exact. So with the captaincy bonus, that's huge. And then Joao Pedro ended up, I don't know if he won the pen, but he took the pen and scored. So pretty big one there. We ended up being zero point 0.8 points off of first. So again, fine margins. I don't think I had any boost on Pedro. Did I? Yeah, okay. I guess I did because he was part of the Watford collection. So 8.5 on Pedro. Before captaincy bonus, 10.5 on Bouanga, 11 on Bogusz, 10.5 on Walker Peters. The one you could make an argument for, I guess, would be Emi Martinez, but again, it just stinks because there's no one here where I'm like, man, if I had just boosted them up from like 2 to 2.5 or from 2 to 3%, it makes a difference. Um, but it is what it is. I won't complain with the second place, so I end up winning Jay De Silva and Ruben Diaz. I don't remember what the first place super rare won, but the first place rare was Ederson, which at the time obviously would have been better, but not like crazy, crazy better. So I'm not too mad about that. But that's all we have in terms of top finishes. So we'll just take a quick look at um, some of the best servants in the gallery. So you got Verts, definitely Flamingo, in season Saka, and then Raya's been pretty solid. Likes that out. So let's take a look at Verts. So that's the forward one. And then we'll click just me. So he's been part of fifth place to get Willie Orban, the first place U23 team to get Musiala, Hlocek, that's a 10th place finish. He's part of the first place team to win Kane. He's winning some cash in here. He's doing a little bit of everything, right? Jose Sa, who is definitely not worth 460, but um, I mean all these smaller ones add up too. I mean Emmanuel Omega, I don't know what I end up selling him for, but like even like if that's 30, that definitely wasn't 472. If that's 30, if that's like 200, if that's like 30, if that's like 30, I mean, $6 to $8 for every card. I mean, if you do that 8 times, or let's just say $6 a card, 6 times, that's 35 bucks. I mean, now I understand Verts is still pretty expensive, but slowly you just kind of keep chipping away and chipping away and chipping away over time, and then you get a big one. Like let's say maybe you hit a podium, you hit a top five, you get a $150 card. You can really start raking in some cash pretty quickly. I know Flamingo is kind of cool because he's been on six reward winning teams for me, and three, so 1, 2, 3 have been podiums, including two first place finishes. So I don't think I'll ever sell Flamingo. In fact, he probably ends up going in the Hall of Fame um, over, I think, Otamendi's in there right now. So we'll have to make that little switch up. We'll do both Sakas. So we'll do the celebration one first, which unfortunately I don't think has hit me like a really big reward yet. Um, so that's definitely the goal is to change that for sure. He won me Gунok, who definitely wasn't worth 405, but I think Sal was worth about 200 at the time. Well, he was on fourth place team for Neuer, so but again he didn't even get a decisive there, so it doesn't feel right. So that's the goal moving forward. Louis Diaz was a nice little hit. I'd love to get a top three finish, preferably a win with Saka, and then you got the forward Saka here, who is the number two of 100, so the first ever forward Saka auction, which I just think stuff like that's cool. Um, Ended up playing him in Classic once, so you got the Bowen win there, and then you got a bunch of cash here, nice little $400 hit. Um, Ended up playing him in Classic U23 for some reason, don't ask me why. Then just more cash, so nothing too exciting with him yet. Any other legends we want to look at? We'll take a look at Schulte. He's a Hall of Famer. We'll take a look at Puig. Gyökeres is weird only because that isn't the same one I've always had. Um, so I don't necessarily want to look at that. Then we'll look at Pepe and Aiden Morris, and then I'll let you guys go. This one's been a bit of a longer one. So we'll look at Schulte here. Won his so I bought him on the market. So I'll take a look at what I've won with him. Some cash here in Cap 240. He just at the way the Columbus played, they're super possession based, but they're kind of prone on the counter. So at times you can go through stretches where he had super low L15s. So he was a really good Cap 240 goalkeeper there for a while. Nothing too big towards the beginning here. Helped win the Opoku, who ended up helping me win Zolis. So another podium there. Part of the Messi lineup, so that was huge. He pretty much pays for himself almost off that alone. Also, Messi definitely not worth a grand. He might have been worth like five-ish hundred when I won him though. Part of the Lawal win, so yeah, probably hasn't paid himself off just yet. But I mean, he's 23. Whether he goes to Europe or not, I'm never gonna sell him. He's part of the Columbus collection, so he has plenty of time to earn back his total value. Puig, we bought on the market for 215, as you can see. Um, I'm the only one, ironically, who's won cards of them. But here you can see nothing huge. Like Palma was decent. He was probably worth about that. Carter Vickers was decent. He was worth about that. Part of the Trubin podium. So a nice first place finish there. I want to say we ended up selling Trubin for like 4 or 500, so that was pretty off. But the cash is obviously right. So he pretty much pays for himself based off that cash number alone. I mean, you got another $30 to accrue. Um, and then you got the Israel win here. So Puig is by far paid himself off. Um, Almost in the cash number. And then even if this number's halved, I mean, he's paid for himself just in card winning. So pretty cool one to see like that, especially when you factor in some of the cards I definitely overpaid for, like when I had first joined and prices were just a lot different. This being one of them, the Bellingham one on auction for 1712. This is like one of the first cards I bought when I made a move to start buying just a lot more high quality players. And I mean, as you can see, I'm um, nowhere near really winning exactly what I have into him. But like, let's just take for example, what's he worth now? Um, just so we can kind of get round numbers. Not that it's all about numbers, but it is kind of good to keep thinking in perspectives. Like, let's say I sold him and I got 420 for him, roughly like 620, and let's just call that 200. So I mean, you're still in the whole $1,000, but he's a 21-year-old on Real Madrid, and he's probably their star player, if not like a number two, or some people don't like Bellingham and would say number three, but there's plenty of time to win a ton more stuff. You got Neuer, you got champion in season rare for $650. Nice little second place finish there. Didn't even know that was there. Um, then just some small stuff. I haven't really won a ton with him this year just because Madrid have been so on and off, but hopefully, knock on wood, we'll win something else huge. So this one's pretty cool, just showing like it is possible to win with smaller guys here and there. Pepe won him on auction for $53, and his only lineup where he's won me something is a first place overall Musiala. So, and he probably ended up being sold for like 800. So that number's not too far off. So like let's call that 160 and $90 on the game in the cash shield. So, and that's like $250 right there. So I mean, I'm already in the profit on him, and I'll never really sell him either. So I love Pepe, huge U.S. men's national team guy. I think for the upcoming World Cup, probably going to make a move to champions soon, and he's part of the PSV stack. So he stays, and then the last one to look at, pretty fitting. Aid Morris, one of my favorite players, probably my favorite crew player. Um, we'll take a look at him. I remember because he was scoring super well at the beginning of last year, and I just remember being super frustrated that I wasn't winning a ton with him. Just kind of felt like I was wasting him. And then all of a sudden, like it's really a lot of nothing. Like the Pookie hit's decent, but it's really a lot of nothing. And then you hit the messy one. So based on the cash alone, I mean, and then you factor in the value. I mean, he's pretty much paid off for with that single win. So plus he's part of the Opoku win that got me Zolis. So I think that was pretty fun for me too, just not knowing how much some of these guys have won for me or how little. Like Salah really hasn't won me a ton. The Kane celebration really hasn't won me a ton, which is frustrating. You actually spend a ton of money on them, but at the same time, like you're not going to make money on every single card. There's still so much time left in all these guys' careers. I understand Classic's a hard place to win, but all it takes really is one huge win for some of these guys to pay off completely. So that's all I got, guys. Hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane with me. Hope that kind of gave you guys some helpful insight as to how I construct some of my lineups and like correlation and things like that. And tomorrow morning, I'll film a video later at night of me going through and uh, and doing my lineups. It'll be after I actually make them, but if I put in raw footage, it would be probably like an hour because I take a lot of time in making my lineups. Um, but I'll do kind of like a recap and talk through like why I made certain decisions here, certain decisions there, yada yada. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you have any kind of constructive criticism or things you want to see, tips on editing the video. I truly am all ears. I'm super new at this, so um, people can tell me kind of what they want to see, or people can give me their experience, or whatnot. It's always just good to hear from some other voices. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck this upcoming game week, and yeah, that's all.